I say to everyone who starts a giving circle is that they have turned on a porch light for strategic political giving in their community. It is a gift to everyone around you because everyone is looking for a way to not just be a witness to the destruction of our democracy. So turning on that porch light, gathering your people in a strategic way, it is incredibly important. And again, it is a gift to your friends and your families and your networks for you to become that leader for them.
Hello, and welcome to the Politics Girl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. Last month, we were joined by author and professor David Pepper, and we were talking about how the heart of democracy, the way democracy actually plays out in America, is shaped at the state level. That the federal government is, of course, essential, and we must win the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But we can't stop there thinking we've won, because long-term, that's a losing strategy. So many of the terrible laws we're seeing, from the abortion bans in Arizona to the 6-week ban in Florida to the attempt to pass laws to stop pregnant women from leaving their state in Texas, are state laws from state legislatures. Even many federal laws end up coming down to how the states themselves choose to implement them. People often blame the president when things don't go their way, but so much of what affects our everyday lives goes through our state houses. Which is why I've invited Melissa Walker of the States Project back on the show today to talk about the importance of winning at the state level and addressing many of our biggest concerns at their root. A graduate of Vassar College, former magazine editor, and author of 10 novels, Melissa has turned her many talents to be head of the giving circles at the States Project, with the goal of changing the balance of power in state legislatures across the country. The Republicans have been way ahead of us on this because they recognized the power of the states long before we did, and while they were obstructing at the federal level, they were taking over the state level. The long-term plan to overturn Roe v. Wade by taking over the Supreme Court succeeded. The long-term plan to roll back voting rights and environmental rights has been very successful. And now they're working on the long-term goal of rolling back human, civil, and worker rights and solidifying power for the minority for generations to come, and we simply can't allow it. We must beat them at their own game, and their game is at the state level. So without further ado, please welcome my guest, author, editor, and head of Giving Circles for the States Project, Melissa Walker. Welcome back, Melissa.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. I was just saying in the introduction that David Pepper was on the show last month, and we were both singing the praises of the States Project because we're both so inspired by the necessity of your mission and obviously your incredible delivery of success. As we look around the country right now, we can see these terrible draconian laws passing at the state level. The South basically has no abortion care now. And over the past 50 years, the Democrats, more or less dropped the ball when it came to the state level because they were busy focusing on the presidency and the national races. And for a long time, it felt like we were kind of reinventing the wheel and starting from scratch every 4 years at the state level, which allowed the Republicans to acquire an obscene amounts of power without much opposition. And now we can very clearly see that it matters who your governor is. It matters who controls your state legislature, who your secretary of state is, who your attorney general is, who is sitting on your state Supreme Court. This really matters. These are the people passing these laws and regulations that affect our daily lives far more often than the people in Washington. And from your perspective, why should people be committed and serious about who wins at the federal level, because we must have that, but perhaps be focusing a good part of their attention on the states themselves?
It's a great question, and it's one that I hope people will start to think about because there is so much of a spotlight on Washington, D.C., but the rubber hits the road on policy in state capitals. So state legislative majorities really are in control of all of the domestic things that we talk about and think about and care about, from education funding to environmental policy to healthcare to civil rights to, of course, abortion rights and the core of our democracy, right? The voting rights and gerrymandering, the drawing of the district lines that decide who goes to Congress and decide who goes to state legislatures, that's in the hand of state lawmakers. And a lot of the things that we hear about on the news are really state laws that are passing. Thinking back to even before 2016, we had the bathroom bill passing in North Carolina, we had stand your ground gun bills passing in Florida, and then in a bunch of other states. those things happened under an Obama presidency because it wasn't about Washington, D.C. It was about Raleigh and Tallahassee. And the Flint, Michigan water crisis was about Lansing. And so when people start to say, why are these things happening in our country? This is why, because state legislative majorities really have been taken over by right wing forces in many cases. From 2010 to 2016, we lost nearly 1,000 state legislative seats, flipped to the right wing. And those majorities that took state houses and state senates, they made people's lives bad. They defunded education and put in right to work laws and gutted environmental protections. But people didn't say, oh, that must be my state legislator. Let me go talk to them at their office on Main Street, which they do have, because most people don't know who goes to their state capital for them. And so they blame what they can see. They blame the president. And at that point, that was President Obama. And everyone thought, my life got bad. What happened? I got to hit the change button for a new president. And really, those roots of Trumpism had been seeded in state legislatures because of right-wing takeovers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can see now with these crazy abortion restrictions or people talking about getting rid of all vaccine mandates in school, states that turn down Medicare expansion or are dictating how children can learn or what teachers can say. It is the state governments passing these laws that are allowing big polluters, like you said in Lansing, to destroy our environment, who decide how lax or how strong our gun laws are that keep our kids safe, how obscenely connected or fair our voting rights are, how we even deal with our police departments, right? Racism, violence in our communities. This is all at the state level. And the States Project, you guys have always been very clear that the states are our last line of defense for democracy. That you say, if we want to move our country past the tyranny of minorities, it belongs at the state level. That's where we're going to do it. Because you go, how can we all believe that we need gun legislation? Or how can we all believe we need a higher minimum wage? Or how can we all believe that we don't want our kids to be shot in school? And yet it doesn't happen. And we can start that, right?
Yes. And, not only are they the last line of defense for democracy, they are also really a first line of offense. When we are able to get new majorities that are focused on improving people's lives, like we saw from 2022 in Michigan and Minnesota, we see incredible policies move. We see free breakfast and lunch for public school children. We see gun safety legislation passing. We see codifying the right to abortion in the state constitution. We see the end of those right to work laws so that unions can be strong again. These are the types of changes that can happen very quickly when we shift majorities. And so they really are also the front lines of becoming those laboratories for democracy that we need to help great laws spread from state to state and to rise up to the federal level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows us that government can work. And I keep saying, I wish we could just show people that government can be a force for good, that Reagan did us such a disservice. I say this all the time by saying, he did many disservices between you and me, but when he said that the worst 9 words we could hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And it's like, actually, if you elect the right people, the government really should be out there helping you. They should be out there looking out for the people. I think most of us know we just got lucky in 2020 with Donald Trump pulling out all of the stops to overturn the election. At the time, we had just enough people for whom nullifying votes or sending a separate slate of electors just felt too weird and they couldn't get their heads around it. Plus, the case was so poorly presented by Rudy Giuliani Super Circus, right, that most of the legislative leaders didn't take it up. But I think you and I could probably agree that the conservative right wing won't make that mistake again, that they have been seeding the ground for the 2024 election since their 2020 loss, building this apparatus of election theft, basically, through voter suppression, voter intimidation, gerrymandering, and now they're talking about election vigilantism and post-election vote challenging. It's all incredibly calculated. These people know that democracy is no longer working for them, so they're no longer working for democracy. And they've been pulling out all the stops, making the playing field tilt their way. And we need to acknowledge that it's been done very well, that it's been an incredibly successful strategy, and we need to recognize what they've been doing so we can fight back properly. So what are your thoughts of the stakes of 2024?
Yeah, well, in terms of the presidential election, it really is important to remember that state governments control their elections. And the way that you win the presidential election is by winning electoral college votes from states. So, in 2020, as you mentioned, it was Donald Trump called right wing state lawmakers into the Oval Office. He didn't call senators or Congress people. He flew in folks from Michigan, from Pennsylvania, from Arizona to meet with him to talk about overturning the will of the voters in their states and handing him an election that he did not win.
Yeah.
There is still a risk that this will happen again in 2024. The road to stealing the presidency ran directly through state legislatures in 2020, and it will absolutely be part of the playbook again.
Yeah, absolutely. So protecting election integrity is obviously going to be essential this year. And you guys are sort of seeing the states as both an insurance policy of what could happen should the worst happen in November, but also as a way to fight back at the state level against this kind of corruption.
The more states where we can secure pro-democracy majorities,
Right.
the more states that will have a big red stop sign in front of them when they try their plan.
Right.
Because when we are able to make sure that Michigan has a new trifecta, and we were able to flip the Pennsylvania House in 2022 by one seat, and that has been very important, but we have to keep that majority in November, because if the Pennsylvania House were to flip back, and if we aren't able to achieve our goal of tying the Senate, then Pennsylvania could again have two right-wing legislatures. That will be a path for them to look at. And so I think it's really important to remember that state legislative majorities aren't just about what's going to happen for the people in that state, which they are, and that's very important, but they are also about the cores of the democracy itself, because these 50 mini Congresses are really the foundations of our democracy. And I think when people focus on Washington, D.C., they're really kind of trying to shine a chimney on a house where the foundations are crumbling. And so we need to shore up as many of those foundations as possible in state after state after state in order to have a healthy union for all of us.
Right. So before we talk about your 2024 goals and targets, which looking at your list is quite varied, but you believe are all incredibly doable, maybe you can back us up a little bit and tell us how the state's project works and why it's different from other groups that people might support or send money to.
So one way it's different is that we are exclusively focused on state legislatures, because we believe that in order to do state legislatures well, you just got to focus on them. There are so many state legislators in this country, over 7,000. We need to zero in and target which races we actually can use to shift power. So the way the state's project works is that every year we do a 99 state chamber analysis. It's 99 because Nebraska is unicameral. It's a great nerdy trivia bit.
Tell people what unicameral is so they, in case they don't know.
Good point. Unicameral means that they don't have a state house and a state senate. They just have one body. So that makes 99 state chambers in the country. We look at every single one because what we're looking for are potential power interventions. That could mean flipping a state or defending against a right-wing majority or breaking a right-wing supermajority or defending against one. We're looking for power interventions. And when we figure out which states those seem possible in, we do a district by district analysis to figure out which are the potential tipping point seats that we need to shift power or hold power. So we're really zeroing in on the districts we need. We're never in deep red districts. We're never in deep blue districts. We're really in those tipping point districts. We go in, we have a local spending partner, which is usually the state caucus. That's the entity in the state that's exclusively focused on the legislature, just like we are. And we partner with them to align on targeting and then basically make sure that the folks in those tipping point districts run fully funded and research-based campaigns. We bring in a lot of tactics. We work on budgets. We just try to figure out, how to make these races really strong. It is not three-dimensional chess. It is Connect Four. And when we partner with these folks, we're just trying to strengthen those elections and make sure that the message gets out to voters of what's at stake, how much power these people have, and what they want to do for their constituents.
All right. And your work fundamentally centers around what are called giving circles. So tell me about them, why they work, why people should be excited about getting involved with them.
Yeah, so giving circles are groups of friends and families and neighbors coming together to pool their resources and then choose a target state from our target list and decide to invest. And the magic of giving circles is that they're a math problem. One person giving is great, but one person giving and then getting 10 friends to match what they gave, is 10 times as great. So when giving circles grow to 20, 50, 100 people, they are raising truly impactful totals. It is often cheaper to change the balance of power in a state chamber than it is to win a single competitive congressional seat.
This is true. And this is one of the reasons I love the States Project so much. We want to remind people how strongly your donations, your time, your energy going at that state level, at that state legislative level can make an impact. Because what Melissa said is it's often cheaper to flip an entire state chamber than it is to win a single congressional seat. So when properly organized with groups like States Project, with strategic decisions that have been decided which districts, which seats are actually legitimately flippable, which state chambers are flippable, you can be changing the balance of power with less money than it would cost you to change one seat in Congress. And that's not to say we don't need to flip the House. This is not to say we don't need to keep the Senate. We need to do these things. However, if you and your friends say, you know what, we really want to make a difference, we can't take this, I want to work with my team, my office, my group of friends at work, whatever, this is how you make a huge difference at a very, honestly, quite small level. You don't have to be a billionaire donor to do that, right? I mean, look at what you guys did in 2023 in Virginia. You want to tell us how that worked?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2023 in Virginia, we were working to defend the state Senate majority and flip the House of Delegates. And we were able to achieve both of those goals. It was incredible. We helped flip 2 seats to build a majority in the House of Delegates and defended the majority in the state Senate by powering $4.7 million into the state alongside our giving circles. That is more than double what any other national group put in to Virginia, and our giving circles in Zoom rooms, in backyards, in living rooms, on text chains of anxiety, put in more dollars than the DNC.
Yeah.
This is the power of people coming together and understanding that this level of focus is where the right wing has been building. And this is how we counter that. They may have more money. We have more people. And when we walk together with our people, we have so much power to add up to a math problem that gets these candidates the tactics that they need and brings home these races. Now, there is a wall in front of Governor Youngkin's right-wing agenda. You probably read a lot of articles about Governor Youngkin in the fall, but there haven't been that many since then. And that's because he cannot do what he has wanted to do. He cannot get an abortion ban passed because he has a legislature that is blocking those efforts. And that's incredibly important.
Incredibly important, because you see all the terrible things happening in Florida or Texas right now. It's because they have the power of the legislature and in many ways the power of the courts to rubber stamp every terrible thing that they want to have come down. So what you're building is a line of defense against the worst laws that can come down. I mean, as David Pepper said when he was on the show, Republicans understand that their viewpoint is not the mainstream viewpoint. They know that getting rid of Roe v. Wade and having 0 gun laws and not raising the minimum wage and having these crazy tax cuts for the ultra rich, they know that these are not popular ideas. They know that they're in the minority and they cannot win elections based on their ideas or their candidates because, quite frankly, most of them are toxic. But they also understand that our democracy is not fully intact, that it is unstable. And they have been using that knowledge for years. Democrats have been going along thinking best man wins, best idea wins, and they have not. They've been like, nope, that's not true. We don't have the best man or the best ideas, but we can do this tweaky thing and this tweaky thing and win this seat and get this one person to run as a Democrat. And then once they win, flip them over to become a Republican. I mean, this stuff you go, what? It just seems like blatant cheating, but they have done it. They have found it. They have done it the right way. And they have had this sustained attack on our democracy that has been incredibly effective. And what you're saying is, yeah, we see that now and we're going to fight back at the level you have been doing it. Do you ever feel like money is just flying out of your account and you have no idea where it's going? Well, I know. It's going to subscriptions. Think about it. Between streaming services, fitness apps, delivery services, parenting apps, it's endless. I'm guilty of this. I sometimes sign up for things and then I write on a stick-it to remember to cancel it. But do I? No. Which is why Rocket Money is so great. Rocket Money helps you find your subscriptions and what you're actually spending money on. And when you look, it's pretty astounding. Then you get to just cancel the ones you don't want anymore with the click of a button. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. It shows you all your subscriptions in one place, and if there's something you don't want, you can just cancel it with a tap. Rocket Money will even try and get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money does the rest. It's a terrific service, which is probably why Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving their members an average of $720 a year. So stop wasting money on things you don't use and cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl. That's rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl. rocketmoney.com/politicsgirl. Today's podcast is brought to you by Rhone. Many men's closets are due for reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone is a performance lifestyle brand with stylish, functional business casual wear that is both high quality and comfortable. Rhone crafted something called the Commuter Collection, which is a comfortable, breathable, versatile set of products for men with pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers. They look great alone, but they work seamlessly together. I got pants and shirts for both my boys. They have Rhone signature 4-way stretch fabric, which is breathable, flexible, and works everywhere from your commute to the golf course. It's very business casual, airplane friendly, and my boys think it'll be great and breathable in the summer months. The Commuter Collection also features wrinkle-free technology and is 100% machine washable with odor-free tech, so you can get more time between washes and feel fresh and clean all day long, which is, again, fantastic going into summer. I actually think I'm going to get my son a couple more pairs of pants and some polos because he's a big dude who's supposed to wear business casual for a 10-day college course, and I don't want him to be rumpled and sweating his face off, and I think the Commuter Collection can really help with that. My husband likes the forgiveness of the fabric because it's a stretch fit, and he said he feels like if you gained a little weight or lost a little weight, it would still conform perfectly to your body. So check it out for yourself. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Just head to rhone.com/politicsgirl and use the promo code politicsgirl for your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to rhone.com/politicsgirl and use the code politicsgirl. As they say at Rhone, it's time to find your corner office comfort. Check out their website today at rhone.com/politicsgirl. Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. And if you have sensitive skin, you know how hard it can be to find a product that doesn't cause irritation. But OneSkin's topical supplements are formulated with soothing ingredients and natural antioxidants and are gentle enough to use every day. Free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can make your skin red, irritated, or itchy, their products are safe for sensitive skin. OneSkin's products are powered by their scientifically proven peptide called OS1. This peptide reduces the accumulation of damaged, aging cells, the ones that make your skin less resilient and more prone to lines and wrinkles. OneSkin has a full line of face and body products, including Shield, which is their sunscreen and what I've been using, that prevents UV-induced aging and repairs cellular aging all at once. I wear it every single day. I really like it. It's smooth and easily absorbable, and as someone with sensitive skin, I've had absolutely no trouble with it. Founded by an all-woman team of scientists, OneSkin products are backed by extensive lab and clinical data to validate their success and safety on all skin types. Not only that, they are the first and only skin longevity company to target cellular sentience, the key hallmark of aging. So try it for yourself. OneSkin is the first world skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. And don't we all want that? Get started today with 15% off using the code politicsgirl at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with the code politicsgirl. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Help your skin stay younger and healthier for longer with OneSkin. What you're saying is, yeah, we see that now, and we're going to fight back at the level you have been doing it.
That's right. They know where the levers of power are.
Correct.
They are not focused on what's in the spotlight and what the news is talking about at night. They know where the levers of power are. And they are in state legislatures because not only do they control all those kitchen table issues that we've been talking about, but also they have power over local governments and they have a lever on the federal level as well because of gerrymandering, because of voting rights, and because they control their state elections. And so this piece is so important. There's this ultimate power center here where they've been focusing and we have not.
Yeah. Absolutely. They're the ones drawing the districts, and those are the people that go to Congress and hold the president or whoever accountable. Those are the people making our national laws. People forget that all the time when they come to the midterms. They're like, you're like, no, those are the people holding everyone accountable. You need to vote in the midterms. But it's also the people making these laws, drawing the districts, changing things, how you even vote. That's all coming down to the state level. I think there's many Republicans who are getting so extreme that I think they're honestly hoping people will just get fed up and leave their states. And they're like, if you don't like it, leave, go somewhere else. And you're like, that the thing is, when you do that, and I understand why people want to do that. They say this state isn't safe for me anymore. The state isn't safe for my daughters. It's not safe for my trans child, whatever it is. But when you leave your state, you limit the opposition's power to fight back, right? So you allow the worst people to solidify their power. The Senate already favors small rural states. The Electoral College is deeply undemocratic and favors that same group of people. And now with the state legislatures and the Republicans acting like these mini dictatorships for some sort of, I don't know, Christo-fascist movement, they think they can lock in that power for all time. And if people flee their states, those are the people that could be fighting back. Those are the people that could be starting a giving circle with their friends that are outraged at how they're being treated, or outraged at how their daughters are being treated, or outraged about how gay people are being treated. You have a bunch of giving circles that are outraged. You can flip those state legislatures and suddenly that power is not so strong and it's not so long term.
That's absolutely true. And I think people do want a way where they can feel like they are making a difference. And it's a really hard place to find in politics. Often political giving can feel like a black hole. And it's like, what did this do? Did it mean anything? Oh my gosh, there's so much wild, emotional political giving that happens when people get scared or anxious. And that is understandable, but it's not strategic. And so what we say to giving circles is, let the emotional part be that you're with your friends in your living room having some wine and talking about state legislatures or talking about some bills that are passing, but let the strategic part be baked in with the state's project, because we have done the work to look at all of these 7,000 plus seats in the country to figure out which ones we need to target to shift power in the direction of majorities that are going to focus on improving people's lives. And by the way, the emotional part can also be after an election. We know that we had our giving circles who had focused on Michigan and Minnesota and Pennsylvania gathering to say, we did this.
Because you
did. We won
did.
these majorities because they did. We were the top donor in all of those states, and those states flipped on the slimmest of margins. Michigan by fewer than 400 votes in each chamber, Minnesota by 191 votes, and Pennsylvania, my favorite margin number from 2022, 63 votes shifted power in Harrisburg. 63 votes. So when Pennsylvania Giving Circles gathered to toast to that after the election, it was them, each individual circle that reached out via email or text or had gatherings. They were the ones who did this because they funded the tactics that fueled these wins. And it's an incredible thing to be involved in.
Yeah. And if you don't want your political giving, if you don't want that kind of stuff to feel like a black hole, I always go back to that Amy McGrath election where she was running against Mitch McConnell and everyone was like, I hate Mitch McConnell, let's get rid of him. And she ended up with $95 million she couldn't spend when they lost the state legislature basically by like 500 votes here and 200 votes here. It's like we could have put that money strategically somewhere else that could have held back that kind of overwhelming, terrible right-wing power grab. And this is what you're talking about. You're like, we at the States Project have done the research. We know which races are winnable. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to get your friends and family together, get your people together and be like, hey, once a week, let's send text messages, let's send postcards, let's do this. We're focusing on Pennsylvania. We're focusing on whatever. So let's talk about your 2024 goals. I know you're raising for Arizona, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, how did you decide on these states and what is the plan?
So these states were decided on via that 99 chamber analysis that we do every year.
Perfect.
To figure out where we can shift or hold power. And we are really back in certain states with different goals. So we're back in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Minnesota to defend those new majorities that we've talked about that we just won. Slim margins, got to make sure we hold those majorities and potentially deepen them. In Pennsylvania this year, we're also working on the state Senate, which is still in right-wing hands. Only half the Senate seats are up, so we see a path to tie that body, not necessarily to flip it right now, but that'll set us up for 2026. And so the goal there is to tie. We will also be in Kansas and North Carolina, both of those states to end a right-wing supermajority and protect a governor's veto. We want to break those supermajorities and make sure that the governors have their veto power. I mean, North Carolina is a great example of a state where the governor's race is incredibly important and it is raising millions and millions of dollars. But if we don't break the right-wing supermajority in Raleigh, the governor will have no veto power. They can overturn those vetoes with a supermajority. So it's really important to also focus on the legislature. So we'll be in those two states to do that. We will be in Nevada to actually build and defend a veto-proof supermajority in both chambers because there's a right-wing governor who vetoes everything. So we want to make sure that we can overturn those vetoes and get some good policies passed for the folks of Nevada. And then we will be in New Hampshire to end right-wing control in both chambers. We'd like to try to tie the Senate. We see a path to doing that this year and flip the state house in New Hampshire. And in Pennsylvania, again, we're protecting that House majority and doing the Senate. Wisconsin is a new state for us this year because they have new maps, which I'm sure you've talked about and heard about. It's a great victory in Wisconsin to have those new fairer maps.
I'm just going to remind people the new fairer maps in Wisconsin are everything we've talked about when we had Ben Wickler on the show, when I've done a bunch of rants about it. The Republicans tried to lock in probably the worst gerrymandered maps in the country, and they needed their Supreme Court to do it, and they thought that they could do it, and they had a Supreme Court election, and the Democrats and the people who believed in fair and true democracy fought back. And they got someone into the Supreme Court who was not some left-wing, zealot. She is just going to draw a fair map. She's a fair justice. And then as soon as she won her election, and they couldn't lock in their terrible maps, they tried to repeal her. They tried to get her off the bench before she'd even listened to a case. They failed at that as well. So now they're going to have, for the first time in a long time, fair maps in Wisconsin. And this is a huge, big difference, not just for Democrats or liberals or left-wing values, but for fairness and truth and actual democracy where the will of the people can actually be reflected. And this is super important.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a long haul. We need to flip 15 seats to get the new House majority, but we're going to try to do it because on these fair maps, we see a path to that being possible.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you're saying here is you're like, we're not working to flip this. We're working to tie this. We're not looking to do this. We're looking to make sure that there's a veto-proof majority. Those kind of things. It's long-term planning, which I have to say the Republicans have been far better than we have. The reversal of Roe v. Wade is a 50-year plan. Like they are good at long-term planning where we're kind of like, we're here again with all the good ideas, but you can't work like that. You can't just show up at the last minute. It's like talking to my son, about his homework. I'm like, you can be really smart, but if you're doing the essay the night before, it's not going to be good, right? You have to long-term plan. You have to organize things. You have to know what you're doing. So what do you say to people who are feeling right now terrified about what's going to happen in 2024 or immobilized about what might happen in 2024 or even apathetic because they think, well, what can I do? Like, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've felt that way too. And the thing is that it is hard to figure out what you can do, but I have found this, and it has been such a balm for what is going on in the federal level and what has been in the news I'm on year 8 of my giving circle now. And not letting the wild fear and emotion get to me has been just therapy for my soul, focusing on the thing that I can do to move the needle when I bring my people with me. And the thing is that you don't have to be a witness to what is happening to our country. You can plug in, you can bring a friend who brings a friend and creates the math problem that we need to lead a strong giving circle that is fuel for our tactics, that is fuel for a local press consultant who gets press for these tipping point seats, which is a really important part of our program, that is fuel for ad testing, which we've been able to bring to state legislative races for the very first time, making sure that the ads that they cut and send are the ones that resonate with folks locally. And that is an incredibly key part of winning these races, getting that message right. And you can bring people together who are fuel for things like our door knocking challenge, which is another piece of our program where we challenge the candidate themselves to knock on doors. And the candidates who knock on the most doors each month get additional campaign contributions from the States Project. That's my favorite program because it really incentivizes something that helps win votes. Instead of dialing for dollars out of states, which candidates often have to do, we incentivize knocking on doors, with more dollars. And in 2022 in Pennsylvania, our candidates who were involved in that challenge knocked on 5 times as many doors as the ones who were not involved. That is thousands and thousands more doors. And I will remind folks of my favorite margin number from 2022. We flipped the Pennsylvania House by 63 votes. So those door knocking challenge winners were putting in the work, meeting their voters, talking to people face to face, and that is what cuts through the national noise. Field teams are great. They all need field teams for get out the vote, but the candidate is the persuasion knock. The candidate is the one that cuts through Fox News on in the background. And that's who we need out on the doors. And so we incentivize that behavior. And what I want to say to people who form giving circles and think about, oh gosh, is it dollars? Yes, but dollars translate into strong campaign managers, amazing field teams, fuel for that door knocking challenge, ad testing those ads. That is what dollars do. And it's an incredible thing to feel like I did that. I fueled those pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think it's also essential that people are able to do something productive, to really feel like they aren't being passive in this, as all this horrible stuff goes on around us. We always say over here that the cure for anxiety is action, and I know you guys say action over apathy. We have to remember that even the rules for democracy go through our state houses. Who can vote? If your vote counts, what voter ID is needed, right? And as we're saying, the Republicans have invested billions of dollars over the past 40 years into building and holding state governing majorities. And we have a chance now with investment and strategic thinking to flip that, to change that. We can see the Trump's plan to steal the election in 2020 relied on these state legislatures. We can say, we're not going to have that anymore. He's not going to have those people to rely on. And this is also where we can see all the terrible laws come from. And then we can go, what if we flip this and all the good laws could come from here and translate up, right? This election is obviously the most important one we've ever had, so we have to pull out all the stops. But moving forward, I really have faith that we're going to keep democracy's head above water and really start reversing some of this because people are aware. But even long term, this is what we're talking about. Moving forward, provided we keep democracy's head above water and we move forward, the strongest force for change in America, to see the kind of America we want, is going to come from these state legislatures. And gathering with your friends and doing this work and not putting in as much money as you would for a huge national race. This is where real change is going to happen. And I want to give people the power to know that they can do this and they will feel rewarded by doing this. Like you're saying, they can say, we did this. We did this. We changed this. And I raise a glass to us for doing it. I honestly, Melissa, I have loved the States Project since you guys started. I think what you're doing is amazing. I am so thrilled that your work has grown so much and you're doing so well. Please tell people how they can learn more about States Project, how they can start their own giving circle, and how they can help you guys out.
So on our website, statesproject.org, you can go, you can click on Get Involved. You'll have a Giving Circles page right there to explain to you how it works. You can contact our team. We love talking to folks. Follow us on social at statesproject.us. And what I say to everyone who starts a Giving Circle is that they have turned on a porch light for strategic political giving in their community. It is a gift to everyone around you because everyone is looking for a way to not just be a witness to the destruction of our democracy. So turning on that porch light, gathering your people in a strategic way, it is incredibly important. And again, it is a gift to your friends and your families and your networks for you to become that leader for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope people really get a sense of how effective giving circles can be and what a strong and impactful community we can create ourselves during these dark times. Getting your people together to make a difference is really so important. And I always say we're responsible for our people, but this is one of the best ways to be responsible for our people, to remind yourself that democracy matters, that being involved really does make a difference, and also enjoy your friends and family while you do it, right? Make change together because we really can do this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thanks for having us back.
I love you guys. Thank you for doing the work. So that was Melissa Walker, reminding us that getting involved in something like the States Project is turning on a porch light for strategic political giving in your community. That you don't have to just be a witness to the terrible things unfolding around you. You can be a warrior for the rights and freedoms we know we deserve. That the States Project has done the research and the analysis so you don't have to, and you can just join with your people to truly fight back. Government can work. It can be a force for good. And the fastest, least expensive way to make that change is in the 50 mini congresses we have around the country. So consider checking out statesproject.org and starting a giving circle of your own. We need to meet the Republicans where they are and take the fight to them. And the most effective way to do that and see real change, holding on to our democracy, is at the state level. I want to thank Melissa for joining us today and you for caring enough about democracy to be here. Until next week, PGR. The Politics Girl podcast is written and performed by me, Lee McGowan, in partnership with the Midas Media Network, and produced and edited by Happy Warrior Entertainment. All rights reserved.